Hello, all.
Hi,
It's my
Patrick.
day off. That's why I'm dressed so cash.
Well, thanks for coming.
We wouldn't have recognized you if you hadn't told us.
Yeah.
Hey, would you please vote for the picture you like the best?
Oh, okay.
That's up here.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's dedication. You come on your day off.
Well, yeah. Well, we're going to the Arboretum after, so we were going to do that anyway. So I said I would come out. My friends will spend time in Victoria Library for an hour, and I will get to see all you guys again.
Thank you. And we are live here, so whenever you are ready.
We'll call this meeting of the Victoria Senior Advisory Committee to order. In my notes for the roll call, it says, standard practice to take roll call at the beginning of each meeting. Since we have some new faces on the committee, rather than calling off names, why don't we go around the room and introduce ourselves? That's
That is a
kind of old
leftover.
leftover directions, since these are all veteran committee members. So we're all here except Julie Hughes, okay? So we'll do the roll call that way. And then we'll go to the first item of agenda, which is petitions, proclamations, suggestions, and complaints. Does anybody have any of those to share with the committee?
I have one.
Okay, Jack.
Did you guys get this in the mail? Yeah, you got it with you. This map in here, I know it's the same one we've got, but I can't read a thing on this map.
Aha.
It's just the way it just doesn't print out well for some reason or another. But the picture you had up and this one worked much, much better. I don't know what to tell the people who are involved, but it's tough to tell.
That's good to note, Jack. And I will say we do have digital versions of this and larger pocket map ones for people to print off. So, but that's good to know. Obviously, we're limited on space for printing when it comes to our Parks and Rec brochures, but it's always good to get feedback on what we can improve and thinking about readability just as much as just getting the word out there.
Some of us are older and we don't adapt to modern kinds of equipment necessarily either very well.
Because I don't get that because I don't live in Victoria, does it identify programs that are for seniors? Is there a senior section?
Yes, there's a
Okay.
senior section. There are tagged, and I can't remember exactly
Inside
what.
the front,
Yeah.
the first page here,
Okay,
recreation opportunities for 55 plus.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And that was something the committee talked about, it was a couple of months ago now, and we put it in, our first conversation about that was first then illustrated in our summer brochures. So yeah, we wanted to keep that on as just a table of contents, but then even in our digital, I know we just talked digital, is not always the best option, but in our digital program brochure, it's also tagged on there. So you could just, when you're registering for programs, click on 55 plus, and it will bring you all of those options. Now, that being said, anyone can attend any event, but just trying to gear towards that community. But yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up, Jack. Alyssa, do you have headlines to share?
I have some events for you all. So, as you saw on the cover of our Parks and Rec brochure, the outdoor pickleball courts, Victoria's first outdoor pickleball courts, are open for play. So if you're interested, if you're an avid pickleballer or you're interested in picking up the sport, please feel free to visit the Recreation Center. They're located right behind them in D-Town Park. There's a parking lot right next to it. Grab your pickleball paddles and start playing. They are available for use. They're free. And they're open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And you do have to get there early because I know that sometimes there's lines. So just wanted to announce that one. Second is the Donuts in Victoria event. We're hosting our next one on August 16th. It's a Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And this time will be the Victoria Library. So you'll be Patrick, I'm guessing Patrick.
No, Kristen is presenting.
Kristen is presenting.
And the
There
reason
we
for
go.
that is that's the same day as the 20th anniversary of the Chanhassen Library. So I'm needed at Chanhassen today because I'm kind of, with the Friends of the Library, I'm kind of spearheading that event. And I got to be there at 9 to let in the dignitaries.
Well, very exciting.
Yeah, so Kristen, who's our youth librarian, will be there to answer questions and make a short presentation.
So if you want to learn a little bit more about what the library does and its vast amount of resources, please attend this event. I know you are all well-versed in the library resources, having Patrick on the committee, but if you know of anyone else that might be interested, please invite them to come to this. Donuts and coffee are provided, so free breakfast.
And notice that the topic is the library, but it's not at the library.
It is not at the library. It will be at the Victoria Recreation Center, so that is good to know. We host those at the Recreation Center, so that is one of the reasons for that. And then the last is a Victoria Farmers Market. I haven't mentioned this the last few meetings, so I wanted to call it out here. The Victoria Farmers Market is hosted and located at Enki Brewery, so right down the road from us, and they are Thursdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Throughout the months of August and September will be the last one. So,
And the library is there the fourth Thursday. So if you are coming, that's a good, come see me. And we also have a member of the Friends of the Library with us. The last time was the day it was like 150 degrees out. So they actually moved us indoors. Okay, I'm exaggerating. It was 140 degrees.
120.
and with that, Chair, that is all I had for events.
Very good. Any other announcements from the committee? We'll move on to the first item on the agenda, or the next item, which is the approval of the minutes from the June 5th meeting. We have a motion to approve those minutes, please. Susan, thank you. Is there a second?
I second it.
Nancy, thank you. It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. It carries. New business. Let's review the trails.
Let's review the trails. And we did all that housekeeping items within under 10 minutes, maybe even under 5, depending on what clock I'm looking at. So that is a quick
Good?
and efficient meeting, Chair.
Okay.
So the first item on the agenda is to review the city's sidewalk and trail network and identify walking trail routes. So for those who were here in June and reviewed the June minutes, this probably looks very familiar to all of you. So what we did at the June meeting is we reviewed our current trail map. We had tables laid out here and just started identifying, what areas are important to the city, what areas do we want people to be able to access, what things should we think about if we're creating routes for people to start utilizing as part of their daily walk routine. And what can we do just to help promote walking routes? So from there, what the committee asked staff to look at is ways that we can create walking routes with things like parking in mind, with things like creating different themes that were talked about were maybe health safety, looking at the recreation centers being that focal point, things like lakes, parks, the Arboretum, downtown, etc. And so today what we'd like to do is just review with you all what options that staff has come up with, looking at parking as a huge thing, as well as trail gaps. There's areas that we obviously have gaps in the city, so we'll want to make sure that we're giving people places to actually walk, like a sidewalk or a trail, not necessarily having them use the road, even just for a short period of time. So with that, I'm going to pull up our potential route list. Navigate my mouse to the screen. Can you all see this?
Yes.
So we have them color coded, but we'll go over each of them. These are not set in stone. They have there's not benches in mind, accessibility in mind when it comes to these. We're not looking at elevation or the potential best options for seniors when it comes to these routes. These are just based on accessibility to parking and based on our trail maps, our trail gaps, and our current trail network. So that is what these are created on, and looking at those different themes, way we can connect people using kind of like an overall arching theme. So we'll go through these. Again, these are not set in stone, and we can look at how do we change these, or maybe these not the right fit, and we can go back and take a look and take another stab at this. But I see Sue's already thinking, so what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great to review them, but will accessibility and grades or pitch ever be mentioned? So if a person does want to walk that is limited mobility wise, they'll be able to identify which walk would be the best grade for them?
Absolutely. And I'm just going to bring up the agenda report for today as well, so we can review that quickly. Well, maybe it wasn't this one. It was the last one.
Okay,
But what the plan is to make recommendations today, and then later this fall, once the weather gets a little nicer, us to go out and either walk the entire trail routes of some of these, probably not the entire trail routes depending, but sections of them. And we don't all have to do that. It can be a volunteer thing. And just see, how does this actually feel? Is this a steep incline? Is this maybe not enough incline, depending if people want more exercise activity? Do we not have enough benches in this area? What does the lighting look like? So starting to identify those key amenities that we can add to these trails long term. And then when Pat Stieg from the county was here last, he talked about funding opportunities to help promote and make those trails better, as well as looking at some opportunities to communicate these trails out to the community. So that is definitely something we'll want to make sure
Okay.
we add. And if we do some sort of trail route map, putting on there, is this easy to walk? Is it medium? Is it,
or even color
what
coded?
is that? Yes. Yep, absolutely. 100% on the same page.
Thank you. I do have one more question. I know at one point the city of Victoria had buy a bench program. And I'm sure that's ongoing, but is it listed anywhere on the website, or would that be something to be included in this?
Absolutely, and I think that's something we should definitely promote. That is something, for those who do not know, the City of Victoria does have a sponsorship program for different types of memorial options. We have trees, which are pretty popular, picnic tables, as well as benches, and you do see those around town where you might see a bench with a plaque on it, so that is something we still do offer to the community. And I know in the Victoria for a Lifetime group way back when they did something similar, they promoted the Bench Memorial Program as part of their walkability study. So that is definitely something we can include in this and our promotional material.
Thank you.
My friend's downstairs with his son, who's an Eagle Scout, and lots of the Eagle Scouts did bench projects for parks. And I'm just wondering, rather than getting people to pay, which is nice, if the city has ever reached out to the Scouts, specifically the Boy Scouts, about this as a Eagle Scout project of building some benches or building something for this walking system.
Yeah, I can speak to that too. So the City of Victoria does have a standard on benches, which isn't made of wood material. It's something a little hardier, so we don't have to keep replacing it. But we do talk to the Eagle Scouts frequently on some other areas. Actually, it wasn't this last May, but the May before that, they came out and helped with our sign replacements and some other areas where they could help paint some of certain parts of our park. So definitely in frequent contact with them about making improvements. Jack.
I have kind of a future one, but I live in the Starter Lake condos right here, and we do have a pathway from us onto the bike trail. They're going to build one just west of where that well company is now and so on, across from the gas company. Will there then be somehow a way from that parking lot to get to the bike trail? Is that part of the company, whomever does the construction? Do they have to put in the blacktop or whatever it is?
I believe you're talking about the Amir project. So that is a development that is being proposed for the city over by west of those two companies you mentioned, Jack. And at this time, I know City Council had staff start reviewing the trail and what that looks like. So I can't tell you that at this time, but I know that's definitely something of top of mind.
Good.
Because that is a huge trail gap for our community. Getting that piece completed would be absolutely wonderful. So with that, sorry, go ahead.
Listen, without talking about specific trails here, just a general comment. It seems to me we got to try to kind of cover the whole city, and there's a big gap in the middle here. We're kind of on both ends, and there's really nothing downtown. I mean, there's lots of places to walk downtown, but I would think the business owners would appreciate it if we would highlight like a little walking trail that takes you around the business district.
We can definitely
Part
have
of it.
something for the downtown area. And I still have everyone looking at the main map, I know this is a little harder to see. So this is the city's internal GIS record. Let's see if I can take out those tax parcels. And if you look at the blue and the red here, the lines, the blue is what's called sidewalks, the red is trails. So you can see areas where it's covered by the city versus not. So when we're looking at this middle section here, we don't necessarily have those areas for people to walk outside the road. And that was something that we wanted to take in consideration. We really don't want people traveling on the roads if possible. Obviously people do because that's just natural, but the more safe we can make people, the better. But we can definitely include something downtown and link up. I think that's something that you're right, we are missing on. Maybe it's how do you get to the LRT? That's not a city trail, but it's something that, you know, is a huge focal point for our community.
Yeah.
So we'll want to make sure that's highlighted.
What did you just say? How do you get to the what?
The LRT, the Lake Minnetonka Regional
Oh,
Trails.
all right, yeah,
Government and abbreviations.
yeah.
My last question, talking about trails, are the trails all maintained throughout the winter?
Sorry, I was just jotting that down.
Are trails plowed and maintained and throughout the winter?
Trails are maintained throughout the winter. It depends on, the regional trail is maintained by the Lake Minnetonka regional area. The thing to note is that roads and streets come first for the city communities. So we make sure that all the roads and streets are plowed first, then we'll come back when time permits to do the trails. So that is definitely a good question, but we do maintain on our trails. It's just to the level and the timeliness is the question there. Yep.
So the blue is streets and the red is trails,
Blue is sidewalks.
sidewalks.
So you're thinking your traditional sidewalks right along the roadside, whereas trails are some of those, if you see here, that kind of go snake in between different areas that aren't necessarily connected to roadways.
Yeah.
So on the, can you go back to the map that actually has the walking trails? Thank you. So from like, if I'm going to get a map of these, are they going to be numbered or named? I see like there's a B. And I mean, they're different colors on here, but is this going to be like the Lions Trail or the Rec Center Trail?
I would anticipate so. Once we actually nail down
Okay.
what routes we want to promote, I think there's definitely opportunities to brand these. I know in the last discussion we talked about how do we make sure that there's signage out there.
Yeah.
Is there opportunity to link to some historic areas that are around the trails? Like what can we do to really brand these and communicate them out to the community? So absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Now this is just a quick Google map description to see if this is even something that's it's worth us to get on to those next steps. So first, why don't I take a look or have us take a look at this blue section here. So this was done during the June meeting, pardon me, to really focus on parking as well as athletic opportunities. So we surrounded it around the recreation center, and as you see, there's two different sections to this. You have the walking trail 1, which is just this smaller portion here, and I can hide this, just to give you a brief look, and this is probably about a mile or so, and then you do have an extended version which loops around the whole entire area and brings you back to the recreation department just throughout that section there. There's also opportunities, and I think this is something that's worth the question when we talk about wayfinding and signage. Once part of the Bavaria Trail is done, people can connect up to the Arboretum area as well as other areas in the city as well as downtown. So there's opportunities for this to even go further depending on the challenge of the walking path.
I've walked that several times, and it's a nice trail. There's some shade on it, fairly easy walking, and you can connect, but you do have to either connect across Bavaria or some of them to connect through other ones, but it is a nice trail.
And since we're here, I'm going to go up to this yellow marked one. So this would anticipate starting over at Lions Park. There's quite a bit of parking in this space. And it brings you into Noterman Woods. Noterman Woods is not necessarily a well-known park, but it is pretty isolated. It's a wonderful just ability to get into nature and away from the city, even though that you're right in the middle kind of the Victoria community. So if I zoom in here, you'd start here, walk a bit to go, and then you'd enter this Noterman Woods Park. Noterman Woods Park ends here, but then you would jump up into the Savannah Valley neighborhood. They have a walkway that's alongside this Stormage Pond, and then you'd go partially through their neighborhood. If you've been in that neighborhood, it's absolutely beautiful, a lot of grown trees, and then you'd swing out by Holy Family and then connect back into Noterman Woods to into Lions Park. And this is approximately 1.8 miles. This one has a few different opportunities. So we have two different starts. You have this one area on the south side starts at Rhapsody Park. Then you have the north side, which is a little bit brighter of a pink, which starts at Lake Bridge Park, and they have soccer fields. Both have quite a bit of parking opportunities. This one, you have to walk a little bit through a neighborhood, again, still on trails or sidewalks to connect down, but really this follows 6 Mile Creek, which is the reasoning for this, and there's quite a few boardwalk opportunities in this neighborhood, which I don't know if necessarily everyone knows about these cool boardwalk-esque opportunities, but talking about accessibility, that's something to consider. So you sneak down through Madeline Creek area. You can get to Madeline Creek Park as well as Kelzer Park through this section up here. And then you can sneak your way down through the Rhapsody neighborhood, whether just on 43 if you want a shortcut. Otherwise, you can sneak through here. There's a lookout landing in this section off of the wetland, and then brings you back down to Rhapsody. Those are two opportunities as well. So if you start here, you see the highlighted. This is about 1.8 miles, so it's a little bit more of a dedication because you do have to walk back. That is a one-way. And then if you start in this section, that's about 1.1 miles one way. And then the last is over by Wasserman Lake Preserve, trying to get people to utilize that park and just really see that park. So we have two different parts to this. You have the one, which is about 0.7 miles, so a little less. That's total, so that goes through the entire park area. So you park at Wasserman, you walk through the landscaping, you can go up to the fishing pier, and there's a nice turnaround spot for you to go back down. If you're looking for a little bit more of a walk, there is an extended path, which brings you close to the elementary school, which, again, you go through this wetland on the south side of Wasserman, go through these neighborhoods, go through some wetland area as well as storm ponds, and then you sneak back down to pretty close. You can continue this, obviously, all the way through Red Fox Drive, but this section is a couple miles.
There's no way to connect it to Lake Town Park? Just that lakeside drive?
Yes, absolutely. This can continue.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
all the way through.
Excuse me, have you heard any complaints about the parking lot at Wasserman? We had a couple book clubs there, and a couple of women have some mobility issues, and it's a ways from the shelter and the grade, and I think it's pavers, it's not all sidewalks. But I've heard people mention that it's not the most accessible, even though it's got handicap parking.
No, we have not heard that yet, but that does not mean that people are obviously not talking about it. So that is good to know. And when we look at some of these areas, just remembering that. And pavers are a big piece to that too. Pavers are challenging for those that may have accessibility or walking issues. Even if you are in a walker, sometimes they might get caught if they're not well maintained. So the pavers are definitely something to look into.
Is everything at Wasserman paved, or is some of it gravel?
There are some areas that are still gravel.
And therefore that limits people with mobility issues as well.
Absolutely.
Probably you've already answered this, but are these all trails and not any sidewalks?
They're a mix of both.
So
Mix of
if you were riding a bike, you'd have to get on a sidewalk part of the way.
Yes. Yep. This was mostly for walking. We didn't necessarily think about biking at that time, but we can definitely extend this to what does it look like for biking. I will say, if I go back to this map, we don't necessarily have the best area to connect for those long bike routes. Usually you're looking at more than just a mile or 2 miles when you're hopping on a bike. So most likely you would have to connect to sidewalk or road paths if you're looking at riding. You do have some areas down here, but a majority of you do have to connect to the blue, which is the sidewalks.
Why is the library on 86th Street? Oh, I guess that's the Express Library.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Like, hold on, just a second.
And what you're seeing is we do have, if I would scroll in, they do have amenities to each of our park areas listed on our GIS map. So that is what you're seeing is there is
Okay.
the Express Library at
All right.
the rec center.
Great.
With the pickleball courts that are very popular, with that, you'd have to park in the back really to access the trail that you're talked about, because parking in the front of the rec center, you'd have to go through around the building. And I don't know this. Are there handicap parking spots in the back of the rec center?
There are, and I cannot remember exactly how many off the top of my head, but there are handicap ADA accessible
Okay,
spots in the back center. And
okay.
if I zoom in, just so everyone's a little bit more familiar with this space, we have 3 different parking lots at the recreation center. I'm gonna remove this. So we have this back lot, or the north lot, and then we have this lot, which is what we designate the main lot. It's actually this whole space. And then we have the south lot, which is more geared towards the soccer fields or the rest of D-Town Park. So each one of them has ADA accessible parking spots connected to it. Now, how many, I cannot remember.
I just was thinking, I think there may be 2, but I could be wrong, and they're probably closer to the sidewalk into the rec center and by the pickleball courts. Oh, look at there,
have
2 right
4,
there.
yeah.
Oh, they're over there
5,
too.
actually.
Perfect.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
Great, so they're right by where easier access to, if you want to get on that. Perfect, great. We all learned something.
Melissa, can you zoom in and see if my sprinklers are on?
true.
Well, thanks for showing us this.
Yes.
Do you need any action or?
You know, some feedback would be great, because what we would do next as a committee is probably not in the next meeting, which would be in September. It's still a little more hot in those days. We would probably start looking at a different area within our work plan, most likely looking at that senior facility that we talked about a few months ago as part of the work plan in September. But then when we look at maybe October, starting to look at how do we actually walk some of these routes, or just take a look at, you know, what is the incline, what are sections that we want to start walking? Do we need benches? What does the shade look like? Sue, you brought the shade up, and I think that's another part of that. So doing kind of a little mini audit ourselves would be our next go around. So with that, do these trails seem like something worth pursuing? Obviously, looking at some connectors downtown is something we will start looking into at a staff level, but are there other areas that we're really missing? Some spaces that we think would really be beneficial to connect people to, or anything about any of these, or we're definitely willing to receive some feedback.
Why don't the blue trail and the yellow trail connect? Just because
That's a great question. There is a trail gap here, meaning that there's no sidewalk to this section, but there might be off of Cochia here, and I'm not aware.
Okay.
You know, we can look that up, right?
There is a trail through there.
There is a trail through there, so yes, absolutely, we can connect those.
Okay.
Great point.
This is fantastic.
With the construction of Highway 5 and having walked a number of these trails, and, you know, they don't all connect, which isn't a problem, but at times you have to cross some fairly busy roads. And I know we've talked about that, and I don't know if they're still talking about a roundabout and I know working with MinDOT is not I mean, they work years and years down the road. But trying to cross some roads without any flashing lights or walking is an issue to connect. And I'm sure the city is aware of that, especially on, what is that, County Road 11? Right, where's St. Victoria?
Yes.
Yeah. There, and then even crossing the road that runs parallel with Holy Family. Is that,
Bavaria on this side? Or are you talking?
oh, right
yeah,
here,
over
yep, right down, move your,
Or here?
yep, right there. You can cross over there, but that road is not the easiest road to cross either.
It is not.
No.
So part of the map design was also to avoid some of those major county road intersections. So if you see, we stop short at Lions Pavilion, but you could still go north without crossing County Road 18 or 11. My apologies there.
Yeah.
But you could still connect these two, and it is an optional. Knowing that you will have to cross County Road 18 here, but this is also avoiding any sort of crossing here. We are along County Road 43, but you don't have to cross 43 along this side. Obviously, we're avoiding Highway 5, and then there is no major sections within here as well.
Yeah.
Just smaller streets. If
That's why you've identified the parking, but sometimes a friend and I might walk 5-6 miles. So, I mean, we try to utilize a lot of them, so. But the parking lots, identifying them is great.
Along that same line, the city is split by County Road 11
and 18, yes.
and 18. 18 is not nearly as bad as 11, I don't think. But
No.
it would be nice if we kind of thought through, is there a logical place to connect? And maybe it's down by Deer Run there, where you can cross 11 better than where 18 goes through.
Yes, I
There ought
read
to be a
some.
place that we think about, well, there's a stoplight there, which is nice now, but you can't really walk down Church Lake Road from there.
You cannot. And the incline in that space, there's a very massive
Right.
hill
Right.
heading down off of Church Lake Road or County Road 43. Although I would say if we would want to cross this intersection, having a controlled intersection would be the best location to have a crossing point. And even if you wanted to connect these, we talked about this way, but you could connect them this way as well. You wouldn't need to cross other than crossing 18 here, but you do have a controlled stoplight at this intersection. Here, I'll zoom in a bit more.
And I did
You
read.
could go along this sidewalk,
Quick-
cross, and then head up, and then do.
Can you head south from that intersection? There's not a place along the,
There is a trail heading south to the Wintergreen neighborhood, and then it connects to 86th Street.
Oh, it goes all
Or
the
you
way
can go a
down.
little bit farther down, and then it goes into the Chevelle neighborhood of Victoria and Chaska. But it does not go. I can't tell you if it goes farther than that, because then we're entering Chaska's district there, and if you see, as soon as we cross the boundaries, I don't have that information. But that does not mean I can't find it. As you can see, you can kind of just see that there's a trail connection here. There's some sidewalks just by visualizing this. And then there's this trail that goes through their ponds and then connects back up. So we could definitely do some of those areas. We'll just want to make sure we're very clear that you would have to use Chaska's sidewalks there, and we'd have to work with them on that.
trying to get across would be nice if there was a way to facilitate that.
Yes.
Nice.
When we mean across, and we can look in areas that would make sense for that, what would be the primary purpose? Would it be to connect
Yeah,
all the trails together, more or less? If you
Right,
wanted
right,
to?
right.
Or would it be to get to certain locations? Because we
I'm
can look
thinking,
either way.
I'm thinking more of getting people to go back and forth. I ride my bike and walk a lot, but I rarely cross 11. It just seems like it's a barrier there, you know, and it'd be nice to explore Wasserman Lake and places like that.
Yep.
But it's, the logical place where I cross is down by Deer Run. But
I
it's
did
just a
read
stop
somewhere
sign.
that they were considering building an overpass for, that just long range, I think, at Deer Run to get you across. They were concerned about young people, for instance, on their bicycles,
Right.
trying to cross 11.
I don't believe it was an overpass in that section, but they did
was a
talk about a
light.
controlled intersection.
Yep.
Okay, well, that might
Or
have been it.
controlled
yeah.
sidewalk, but I don't know if that went any further. They did talk about funding that, and the county, with the cost of creating that controlled intersection, I don't think there was much interest as of today. Not saying in the future that's not part of the discussion.
I noticed they've just completed sidewalk on the east side of Bavaria, just south of Hartman.
Yes, yep.
That's a nice addition, but there is no plans to continue that sidewalk further north, right?
Not at this time.
Okay.
And we will continue to work with property owners to see what access could possibly look like, but that was our hiccup last year when we were trying to complete the entire section. The other piece is, you're right, Highway 5 is going to be starting to be reconstructed and relooked at within the next couple of years. I know we've discussed that previously as well. 82nd Street will be paved, so this road is currently gravel. That goes behind the Arboretum. That's looking to be paved and construction to start sooner than later, and that will be the first kickoff with a roundabout where this B is. After that, Highway 5 will be reconstructed, and there will be some overpass and underpass opportunities when we do those areas. So once that is done, we'll have further opportunity to revise this map and include some areas north of Victoria, because that's the other piece we're missing. You know, we're looking on the south side. We have a ton of residents that live in between here and Highway 7, even on north of Highway 7, that are not included in this map. And I think part of that is because we have not had a real good, safe location for them to cross Highway 5, and that's something that will be done within the next couple of years or so.
Actually, I did ride my bike from my house into the Arboretum, but you have to kind of know where you're going. You're able to cross Highway 5 up by Minnewaska Parkway and go under and go into the Arboretum.
Yes, there is a nice underpass. If I can see it, I think I can see it from here.
It's right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a beautiful trail that the county reconstructed, a nice boardwalk on that side.
Very nice. Mm-hmm.
And they'll also be reconstructing part of Rolling Acres Road, so part of that may include additional trail and sidewalk. However, I'm not 100% sure on if there's going to be walkability as part of that reconfiguration of that road.
This is not about a trail, but the temporary stoplight by Dairy Queen, is that going to be a permanent light? Or didn't they? I mean, they have something down by Dairy Queen, or maybe there
I didn't
is.
know they had one.
They did quite a while ago.
Okay.
That might have been about a year and a half, maybe 2 years now, when there was a temporary stoplight there. And that was because they were working on Highway 7.
Okay.
I travel that way for work, so I'm like, I don't remember having
I
a
was
stoplight.
trying to, after I asked that, I was trying to think.
But that being said, Sue, there will be a roundabout at that intersection.
I knew there was something in the works there. Okay, thank you. I don't go that way very often.
Oh, no worries. I think people enjoyed having the stoplight there, just on the safety of this intersection specifically. So having the roundabout will be a nice addition.
Are they also talking about a roundabout at the main intersection in downtown? Or was it the one out on Highway 5 by Dairy Queen? And
There is one happening at Dairy Queen, yes. The main intersection downtown, how I perceive the main intersection is where this corner of Florida is not going to be a roundabout.
Okay.
It's just a stoplight.
okay,
There has been talk about a roundabout over by the fire department in this area, but I don't know if this has formally been, has have really been discussed in great lengths. It has been adopted in the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan as a possible roundabout, but is it a for sure roundabout with funding attached? I don't believe so. The other roundabout that will take place is off of 11, farther south in Marsh Lake Road at Pioneer Trail. So when we're looking for another roundabout, there will be 3 that will be introduced to the city. So be prepared for that. This will be the 3rd one. So
That actually is a dangerous intersection, very.
This is kind of germane, but if you scroll back up, where the new development from Pulte Homes is going through in Lanier, there is a logical way there to connect to the Arboretum Trail, or the bike path out to the Arboretum, and avoid Bavaria, where the homeowners don't want us to put a trail, right? I don't know if you highlight that or how you do it, but.
are we talking the development north of
Yeah.
Holy Family?
Yeah,
Okay.
right there.
Just making sure I was on
But that new road is going through where it says Lanier at Brookmar. And you can
Yes.
go up and turn right on,
So right now, Cochia has a gap within it. So you can get to part of it on the north side, you can get to part of it on the south side, but until recently, there was no connecting road. There is a development that's coming through where we see farm fields here. This will be a new development
Yeah.
with a new park and new trails. So as part of this, the developer has been working on connecting Cochia. I believe they're done with it, and there will be a trail, a sidewalk that we'll be able to use between these 2 areas. So yes, there is that opportunity to connect up there, go to
78th,
Yep.
and then you go up to the stoplight there.
Yes, and vice versa, you could go down once 82nd is completed and paved and go this way through as well.
Yeah, you could get to the Arboretum. Will there be an entrance to the Arboretum?
There will be an entrance to the
all the way
Arboretum on the
around it.
south side. Will they have public trail access to that? I am unaware. Typically, once you get to the Arboretum section, even on the north side trail, they do have it blocked off as you pass through that boardwalk. It's all fenced off until you get to close to the Lifetime intersection off of 41 and 5. So I don't believe they'll have public access, meaning like you can just ride your bike through the Arboretum, but they will have an admissions section or area that people can
Will
pay
there-
to enter the Arboretum.
Will there be some kind of trail along that new road?
There will be. Yep.
That'll be great to connect it that way.
Through down to Chaska, similar to where the new Costco is being developed. So we'll go right past that by the high
Right.
school.
Perfect.
I had also heard, and I don't know if it's true, but went with the Highway 5 project, they're really planning on moving the entrance, the main entrance of the Arboretum down, as well as pulling the Apple House and the Research Center there as well. And I had heard it would be by Lake Minnewaska, but that's all hearsay.
Nope, that's correct. So the Arboretum has been working on moving their entrance. You may have even seen some construction vehicles by the Minnewaska Parkway area when they put that temporary light in the Arboretum. And as you've noticed, that stoplight has remained there.
That's the light I was talking
They
about.
just tore down that house and the barn that was
Yeah.
there. They're completely gone now. That's a disappointment, I think. But
Yeah, that's where it'll be.
So that is part of that Arboretum long-term range, is that it will be moved within Victoria now. So previously the entrance was in Chanhassen, a majority of the Arboretum is in Victoria, but now the entrance will also be technically in Victoria, which is a nice little plug for us on a tourism side and economic development side. And then they will be moving the Apple House onto the grounds. The location of that, I'm not 100% sure, but that's a longer-term plan for them as well.
Exactly.
Kudos to the map maker because they're very current. They have Prince Rogers Nelson Highway on here.
They do.
Can you, now this is apropos of nothing, except you have a map in front of us. Can you go back and scroll west on, is it 82nd to Cochia and show us where the new firehouse will be?
Station is?
Yes.
That's right there.
It will be right in this corner here. So the city, the water tower is here.
Yeah.
And there's a section on this map. I don't have the exact sizes, but it's about 6 6 acres on this side.
So did they buy that land from Holy Family?
Correct.
They did, okay.
Now, that's an interesting point. With the fire department going in there, will that possibly warrant a light, or will they go out on 18, or will they go out on Cochia, or, I mean, down the road as they develop?
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you any of that when it comes to the transportation. Obviously, you know, as that comes through, as these new developments come through, as Cochia is connected and opened, our engineer as well as the county will also be looking at traffic patterns as they typically do for these areas and make intersection decisions based on that. Similar to, we used to be a 1-2 stoplight community, but then recently they added a stoplight here. Otherwise, this used to be a stop sign.
So the people that live on Victoria Greens, they have pickleball on one side and the fire station on the other.
Well, wonderful. So what we will do is we'll take a look at extending some of these maps out, or some of these trails out. Right now, a lot of them are that 1 to 2 mile range, but Sue, you also mentioned wanting to go a little bit further. So how can we maybe connect some of these together? How can we maybe extend these using our current sidewalk and trail network? And then how can we connect these areas to downtown as a potential as well? I think that's definitely an important key highlight for us. And since downtown goes right through that Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail route, that's a great connector to get people a general good location for people to go a little bit longer for a bike ride or for a walk if that's what they're looking for.
Would it be possible at the next meeting, I'm thinking, as far as if we want to walk these trails, are there any standards that you look for? Because I walk a lot of these, but as far as the grading or, you know, how do you assess that? Putting a bench, what I thought might be a nice place to put a bench, might not be the standard that a person who had some mobility issues needed. Could you bring any of that back to us for some of us that walk as we walk them? I don't know if we have to do it as a group, and we could possibly help if we know, you know, what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And Don actually provided some resources a while back when we first started talking about this. The AARP has a wonderful amount of resources when it comes to doing those self-walk audits. So in addition to taking a look at some facility options for us, let's also take a moment just to review what a possible walk audit would look like. And if there is opportunity, we can discuss this as a committee in September of saying, maybe we don't want to do this as a group. Maybe we don't want to do this as a scheduled meeting, but we can just say, hey, we can hand out the walk audit or just the index that we're looking for. And if you're looking for something to do on a Sunday morning or whatever time you prefer to walk, feel free to walk some of these areas and check these off. And Sue, I welcome, not necessarily just these routes that we have listed here, but while you're walking, if there's areas that need certain levels of improvement, whether it's just basic maintenance or potential of adding some of those amenity features that we talked about, feel free to let us know, jot it down, so then we can at least include it on kind of that larger range vision for our parks and trails.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all. This is a wonderful discussion.
Are there any other items of business to bring before the committee today?
Oh, I just have a quick question for Alyssa. When I got the fall 2023 programs, I assumed that means that I can tell the speaker that I found who was going to do a fall event for seniors that they're not needed. Because
Yes.
these are all scheduled.
Yes.
So I can tell him he's not needed, correct?
That is correct, and I believe we talked about this, and maybe, I can't remember what meeting it was, but we're taking a pause just to see how the Donuts in Victoria event works, and something that we would talk about is having to include speakers as part of the Donuts in Victoria. We're getting a pretty good crowd, usually that 8 to 10 range currently. So hoping that will continue and we can start inviting more and more speakers to those. That is the plan current to date.
Is there any update on the Parks and Rec director replacement? Are they looking to replace Anne and still have 2 folks, or are they going to replace her with her junior and just have 1?
That's a great question. So as for those who aren't aware, our Parks and Recreation Director did step down probably sometime in June. So currently we're reviewing the Parks and Rec Department, what our needs are as an entire staff, just to see where do we want to go from here. And even just taking a good pause at what do we want our parks to be. So we'll have more information to come on what we're looking for in the hiring process for that.
I just had a couple updates that I forgot to mention way up at the agenda. Just a reminder for the countywide Commission on Aging meeting at the Arboretum on the 30th. There's gonna be a couple speakers offering data, but it's mostly gonna be ask questions, networking, because a lot of the commissions are either new and or have a whole new group of commissioners. And then the Chanhassen Senior Expo, the date for that is out. It's October 4th. And so once there is a flyer, I can bring it and invite you folks to that. But just a heads up that they're doing their annual expo in October.
Great, thank you.
I put that aging event on my calendar, and we don't need a reservation to get into the Arboretum for that, do we?
Nope, if you tell them at the door that you're there for the meeting, I just ask for RSVPs so I can order enough lunches and make sure the room is large enough.
And the committee, for those who responded to me, and I think each one of you 4 did let me know, I RSVP'd for us as a group.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
good, thank you.
Did I say I was coming?
You did.
Well, I'm going to be in Idaho. That might be a long, which is unfortunate because I've been to those in the past and they're good. So I'm sorry.
Don, we can have an RSVP of 4,
Okay.
including myself.
Okay.
We'll change our number.
Okay, that's okay. And having too many lunches is better than not having enough, so.
I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn then. Somebody want to make that one, please?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Jack. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Don't forget to vote.
See the one I want.